And, you know, for most of my life, I understood, you know, like I come from a super leftist background. I identified as a socialist for most of my adult life.
Hmm.
Um, and I no longer do. But for most of my life, I understood homelessness. And I think a lot, if not all, kind of progressives and leftists understand homelessness to be a problem of, you know, lack of housing. So I always thought more social housing, more social housing, more affordable housing. And only lately have I begun to learn that that might not actually be the problem and that might not actually be the solution. And of course, you know, like I came across you because I read this great piece that you wrote um, about the homelessness problem. Specifically, I think you were talking about LA and San Francisco.
Yeah.
And I mean, why is there a homelessness problem, first of all, and what could be done about it?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it makes sense. It seems logical to think, okay, there's homeless people. What's the solution to this? Give them a home. That does seem logical. And I would say if the majority of homeless people were homeless because of sheer poverty, that would be a viable solution. But I was like driving out last night, and like there's a crazy homeless guy off the off ramp, swinging. He's running around in the street, swinging around a broom, trying to hit everyone's car. And it's like, if you give that guy a two-bedroom apartment, like it's not going to fix his problem. So he's probably going to die in that apartment, or start a fire. I mean, it's not a viable solution when the main issue is drug addiction and mental health problems, and a lot of these mental health problems are a direct result of drug abuse. So, I mean, I guess you in the past couple of years, it's like now I'm a far right conservative for thinking like we shouldn't just give a studio apartment to every person with temporary schizophrenia from methamphetamine. But
We're
I
all
don't
far
think
right
that's the
now, I
solution.
think.
I guess, yeah. I mean, people are going to be mad that I say that, and I know people that, um, I mean, I know people that legitimately will argue with me about the root causes of homelessness and the percentages of people that are homeless because of drug addiction, and haven't even been camping, let alone like slept outside on Skid Row, and whatever. I'm not insulted about it, but it's like I was there. I know what's going on. I've been to jail a lot, and in jail, I'm telling you, 98% of people I've ever talked to were there because of drugs, mostly meth, some alcohol. There's DUIs and all that, and this is a problem. This is an epidemic. I mean, fentanyl, the new meth. I mean, meth is not what it was 10 years ago. It's different, and you're not going to get anything but dead bodies inside studio apartments. You know, unless you cure these underlying problems, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, so would you do I mean, do you think there is a homelessness problem in America? And I mean, I'm from Vancouver, so there's sort of a similar situation happening in Vancouver and a similar response, I would say, to the response in places like San Francisco, LA, Portland, Seattle, which is, in my opinion, a lot of virtue signaling and sort of like the cheapest solutions that aren't really solutions. But we talk a lot about the homelessness problem. And now I'm not sure if there is a homelessness problem. So I'm curious to know what you think about that.
Yeah. Well, there's certainly a problem in places like San Francisco and Los Angeles. I mean, rent is very expensive.
Yeah.
Rent is very expensive in San Francisco, and they're going to have their own problems because, I mean, someone's got to work at 7-Eleven. Someone's got to come clean your house, and like those people live 100 miles away from San Francisco right now. That they live in Antioch. That's a separate issue. I mean, but I agree, the rent is too damn high, as some people like to say. I think that's a separate issue than what we're seeing with like literally like people that appear demonically possessed on the street, you know, dying. I just don't think those two things relate to each other. Um, there is a drug addiction problem. There's a fentanyl problem in this country. There's a mental health problem in this country. Um, And a lot of people told, they'll tell me, okay, well, COVID put a lot of people out on the streets. And it's like, COVID was the one time it was literally impossible to become homeless. I mean, you didn't have to pay rent for 2 years.
We were
It's
getting
literally
thousands of
impossible.
dollars a month in Canada. This was
Yeah.
thousands of dollars would be handed out to any individual who asked.
Yeah. And listen,
Yeah.
people here got $1,000 a week for unemployment. I worked the whole time. So I didn't get any of that money, but it was a time that it seems like it would be a very rare circumstance that you could actually become homeless because it was legalized to not pay rent for 2 years. So that argument doesn't really bode well with me. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me. And if you go downtown of any major city in America, it's not people. It's people that are like possessed by fentanyl and meth and talking to themselves and covered in blood, and it's like, doesn't that seem like the bigger issue? Like, you can't just put a suit on that person and give them a job and an apartment. So I think we're having a problem. That's it's a drug problem mostly. Obviously, there's poverty. Obviously, it's terrible, and but no, what we're seeing is a large scale drug epidemic.